Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about how you can eat healthy if you're eating out at a restaurant with friends, and kind of what choices to make and what to ask the waitress so that you can have a healthy meal but still enjoy a night out with your friends. Okay, so the first thing that I will do no matter which restaurant I go to is I will sit down, and when they bring the water and they ask what you want to drink, I always say water and I never take anything else unless it's a tea, but I don't drink like any sugary drinks or anything. So I will ask for water, and then I will ask for a ton of lemon slices in the water. I usually ask them to just fill up the cup. Like if it's a big cup, then like fill it halfway with lemon slices. If it's a small one, then fill the whole thing up with lemon, and then no ice. So I have a room temperature water with lemon, and then when they bring the cup, I like stab it with a straw or a fork to get like the juices released from the lemon. And what this does is it'll help if you drink it before you eat food. It'll help digest your food. It'll help detox and cleanse so that whatever you do eat, your body can handle it and help, you know, break it down. It kind of acts like a digestive enzyme. So that's the first thing I will always do no matter which restaurant I go to. And then now, before I even start telling you what to eat, it depends on the restaurant. So obviously try to choose like a higher quality restaurant just from the start if you get like have a say in where you're eating out. But if you don't, there are always options you can do. So if you're going out to like a healthy restaurant, then you can just probably choose something right off the menu, like some sweet potatoes and stuff, and they'll have something healthy. If you don't go to like a healthy restaurant and it's just like a chain or a pub or something, there's still things you can do, but you just have to ask a lot of questions. So before I tell you anything, if you go to a restaurant and you make a lot of requests, a lot of the waitresses will like get frustrated with you or won't want to try to accommodate, and who cares? Don't let that stress you out, and don't let that like defer you from making all these requests and like modifying a lot of the meals, because again, it comes down to your health. It's your body. If you eat these certain foods that you can't have because you're worried about the waitress, then it's your body that's going to be inflamed and in pain, not hers. So, or his. So just order what you want and ask for what you want. And if they're so kind and accommodating, tip well. And if they're not, well, just don't tip then. But just, I used to go out to a restaurant and just feel like really stressed, and I would be like, I don't want to make all these adjustments and ask for things, and I would just feel like really bad, so I wouldn't. But then I would leave the restaurant in so much pain. And then at one point my husband was like, why do you do this yourself? Just order what you can have, and who cares what they think? And I was like, that's true. And then a couple of times I had some pretty rude waitresses that were like rolling their eyes at me as I was like, hold the bun and make it a lettuce wrap, and hold that and add this, and she was getting really frustrated and she was really rude, so we didn't tip. And then we went to a few places and the waitress was so kind, and then we tipped really well. So just go that way and just don't worry about like what they're gonna think. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I look at the menu, and a lot of times things are deep fried, which might not be a huge problem. Like, I mean, if you're okay with having, like, I don't like having canola oil, and everything that they deep fry is usually in some type of vegetable oil, which is very high in omega-6, which causes inflammation in the body if you don't have like the right ratio of omega-3s to omega-6. So I usually try to stay away from canola oil. It makes my psoriasis flare up. But a lot of times people are like, I just want to avoid gluten and I don't care about what else I eat. So if that's the case for you, if you're just trying to avoid gluten, a lot of times when they deep fry, like say onion rings that have like a batter, a gluten batter, they usually deep fry like the fries and stuff with it too. So the fries might not necessarily have like a coating of gluten on it, but they will have come in contact with gluten in the deep fryer. So keep that in mind when you're ordering, and it depends how severe and sensitive you are to these things, and kind of start basing your choices on that, being aware that things can come in contact with gluten even if they don't necessarily have gluten in them. So make sure you ask those questions. A lot of times on the menu, they'll say like gluten-free beside something, but then when I inquire and I say, is it come in contact at all with gluten? And they say, oh yes, it would have in the deep fryer or in the frying pan or something. And for me, even a little bit of contact with gluten, I get in a lot of pain. So that's why I would just like ask those questions depending on how sensitive you are to gluten. That's the first thing. Okay, so what I do is I look at the menu, and I usually try to choose something with a lot of vegetables. So if they don't have a lot of options, like if you're going to a pub, it's usually mostly deep fried and comfort foods, and you might not have a lot of options. So in that case, I would sit down and order a big salad, but I would hold the dressing. So a lot of times in the dressing, that's where you really gotta watch. They add a lot of bad sugars. They add canola oil. They don't rarely use olive oil because it's so much cheaper to use like a vegetable oil. So they'll use some type of vegetable oil and a lot of other like bad vinegars, like white vinegar and things that are not good for your body. So what I like to do is I will ask for the salad, and I will just ask for pure olive oil and pure balsamic, like not a house dressing. I will ask for just straight up balsamic vinegar, straight up olive oil, and then salt and pepper, and I like will make my own dressing on top of the salad. And for me, that it tastes really good and it works really well, and then you don't have to worry about like all the sugars and everything that's in the dressing. Another thing you can do is ask for extra lemons and then make like a lemon dressing with some olive oil if you want that instead. So I will always make sure I have like a big salad with me. And then for protein, I will ask just, it depends what they have. If they have a good option for like a chicken with like goat cheese on the top or something, then I would usually take that. But if they don't, then I will ask them to just make one grilled chicken breast, but with no oil or anything. I would say make sure there's no vegetable oil, no sauces. I can just put salt and pepper on it, and they'll bring that out to me, and I'll just put that on top of my salad or on the side. So that's usually what I will do if I'm at like a pub and there's not a lot of options. If I'm at like a different restaurant that has a little bit more, then I might go for like a chicken breast with like a mashed potato, but I'll ask them, it depends also on the restaurant. If you get a mashed potato, usually they make a big batch of it and they just have it ready for when you go. In that case, there's butter and flour and a lot of things in there. If they make it in smaller batches, then you can ask them to just make straight up mashed potato or a straight up baked potato on the side, and you don't have to worry about there being butter, because you could ask them to hold the butter. And if they can't do that, then I usually will just do a chicken breast and then a big salad on the side, and then I like to ask for some sweet potato fries or something if you can have the gluten. So again, make sure if you can have the gluten, if you can have something come in contact with gluten, then you can have like the sweet potato fries or something, and you're probably gonna be fine. But just that way you can choose cleaner things. Now, if I want a burger, if I'm craving a burger, which I usually am, then I will get a burger, but I usually go for like a chicken or something. Now, keep in mind, depending where you go, most restaurants don't do like free range or grass-fed. So still the protein is not the greatest option. If you order a chicken breast, it's probably just fed grains, and same with the beef and stuff. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying that you're gonna have a 100% clean meal when you go to a restaurant, but at least there's better choices you can make. So I will order usually a chicken burger because that's just what I prefer, but it's less acidic than beef. But if you want, go for a beef burger, and I usually just ask for the burger. And then instead of a bun, sometimes you can choose a gluten-free bun. If they don't have that option, then I ask for a lettuce wrap. And then if they ask for like what toppings you want in the burger, I don't get ketchup or anything. I usually would just ask for a little bit of goat cheese, maybe some fried onion, or raw onion, or tomato slice. Just, you can put vegetables. I usually just stick to the veggies and kind of stay away from like the ketchups and stuff. And it really tastes good, and it really does fill you. At least it fills me. And you kind of feel like you're indulging in a burger, but you're not getting all that heavy bread and cheese and things with it. If you can have cheese, maybe ask for a slice of Swiss cheese on it or something. So that's what I like to do. Now, a lot of times they don't do a lettuce wrap on the burger. So instead I will say, can you just put it on a bed of lettuce? And they'll chop up the lettuce really fine and just stick the burger on top of a big bed of lettuce. And it tastes really good because I use like an iceberg lettuce, which isn't the best option for lettuce, but it works for a burger because you don't really taste it. So that's another option. Now, a lot of times too, I will look through the menu, and if I see that they have like a nacho or something, then you could do that. Again, keep in mind that nachos, if they're corn, they're probably not gonna be organic unless you're at like a fancier restaurant that has that option. But a lot of restaurants you go to, you can bring, this sounds crazy, I know, but if you're severe, like have lots of psoriasis or have a lot of health issues, you're gonna kind of have to do this. You could bring your own nachos, your own organic nachos, and they will make your nacho platter with your nachos. A lot of restaurants will do this, so keep that in mind. Maybe call ahead and ask if they do that, and then if they do, then bring your own nachos. I mean, and they'll discount the price. They won't charge you for the nachos as much. They'll do like a half price thing. So there's a lot of things you can do, and for me, like, I have to make a lot of modifications or I flare up really bad. I went out for dinner last night and my psoriasis flared up like crazy, and I ate super clean, but I think there was canola oil and stuff in it. Anyways, so that's another option, is bring your own nachos. There are also, like if you look in the appetizer section, there's also a lot of times you can find things like mussels, and they just have some like marinara sauce on it, or They do sometimes have calamari. I've seen at restaurants, they have calamari that that's not breaded. They have like this, I don't know if they call it like soft calamari, but it's basically like sauteed calamari with the sauce and everything, but it just doesn't have the breading. So that could be an option. Yeah, there is a lot of options if you look. Now, just what I want to sum up the video with is basically don't feel stressed if you have to make a lot of modifications. You need to see what I do when I go, and I do feel bad like that I'm making them go like out of their way, but at the end of the day I'm like, this is my health and I really need to do this, and I want to be able to go out and enjoy meals with my friends. So you just kind of got to do what you got to do, but just ask. And it's fine. And if you're worried, then call ahead and say, if I make a lot of these like requests, are these doable or not? A lot of times there's gluten-free pastas on the menu, which you could enjoy, like a rice pasta or something. So that's a cool option too if you want a pasta. So just find out, just ask. But basically make your modifications and don't worry about what people think. And then if there's nothing on the menu that you seem like you can eat, at the end of the day, you could ask them, could you just cook up one grilled chicken breast for me and saute some green beans? And they will do that. Like 90% of restaurants that I've been to will do that for you. And you could ask for like no oils or anything. So they'll just have pure green beans and chicken breast, and you could just have that instead. So there are, when it comes down to it, there are so many things you can do. Every single menu that I've seen at restaurants have, at least in Canada, have their side options. And they're smaller, like it's way cheaper, and they have smaller things. So I will take a couple sides and then make it into a meal. So I'll say, can I have your small house salad, maybe a soup, depending what the soup is, of course, and certain things, and I will just make that into a meal, and it works that way too for me. So I always find something at a restaurant that I can have. It just takes time to look, and then you have to ask to make modifications to hold certain sauces, hold certain things, but it's doable, and that way you can enjoy a night out with your friends. So those are my tips, but I always do try, before I end this video, I always do try to find a restaurant that at least is a little higher quality, so that if you do make modifications, they're not gonna freak out and be like, oh my gosh, this girl's crazy. So there's a few restaurants in my area that I really enjoy going to, just because they are so accommodating, and no matter what kind of requests you make, they just are like, oh yeah, we can do that, no problem. They go out of their way to help. So I think it's really good. But anyways, that's kind of all I have for today. One more thing I want to throw in there before I end the video, I forgot, is in the dessert section, depending again what restaurant you go to, if it's like a better restaurant, they usually have vegan cheesecake desserts. And if you're like me, you like to have a dessert when you go out, you can get the vegan cheesecake, because a lot of times they're made with cashews and then like dates for the crust and stuff, so they're cleaner. Of course you can inquire and find out how clean they are, and just make sure that they're gluten-free if you can't have gluten, but they're pretty good, and there's definitely options you can get. So okay, that's it for this video. I hope you guys took something out of it. It was just more of a chatty video, not like a step-by-step what to do, but it's what I do when I go to a restaurant, and it really helps me. So I hope it helps you too. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you all, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.